The process of home building, which is often the single biggest investment in a customer's lifetime, is typically viewed through a transactional lens. And success in this is usually measured by metrics like budget and schedule. But I want to propose a shift in that perspective. And I want to propose that every construction project, while physical, also has this invisible twin that comes from the emotional and psychological toll that it takes on everyone involved. That toll is felt by everyone, from the builder and the trades to the homeowner. And the homeowner has to navigate this unfamiliar process, and they usually have a lot of anxiety and uncertainty about it. So I propose that the client's emotional roller coaster and the professional's stress and sometimes even burnout are not a separate, isolated issues, but rather they're actually two sides of the same coin. Thanks for joining the Your Project Shepherd podcast today. I'm your host, Curtis Lawson, and I'm glad you joined us. I know that this is going to be a long episode. I was kind of scripting this thing out, and I know it's going to run long. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to go ahead and separate this into a two-parter, where today we're going to kind of present the issue to you as I see it. And then next week we'll follow up on this with a solution. This topic has been on my mind a lot lately because I've been dealing with seeing a lot of customer stress, tough situations. And if you're a builder watching this, I'm sure that you've probably have had those in the past, or maybe you're dealing with that right now. And if you're a homeowner who's just starting the process, or maybe you're in the middle of a build right now, you may be feeling the stress as well. So just this morning, I was visiting a job site. I got a call last night from a consulting client who messaged me last night in a panic because the appliance company had gone by to take one final measurement before they install the refrigerator, and the fridge isn't going to fit into the cabinets. Well, the house is almost done. Appliances are about to go in. She's supposed to move in 2 weeks. But the house is nowhere ready. She's got furniture being shipped from overseas because they're moving here from out of the country. And so she has all these stresses. All these things are hitting right now at one time. And I think that's a pretty common story. But of course, on the other side of that, right, there's the builder. And he's trying to manage a million things at once. He's actually a good guy. He's trying to make them happy. He's trying to get them in their house. But he's dealing with things too, right? He's dealing with a designer who made a change that now caused the refrigerator not to fit. He didn't catch it. The cabinet guy didn't catch it. He's also doing a million things at once. And he knows their schedule's behind. He's hearing about it, but now he's dependent on all these different trades who have to get their work done so he can get his done. And like this morning, the AC was supposed to be turned on to the house. Well, the AC guy hadn't showed up for 3 days to install the air conditioner. And the wood floor guys are there trying to do the wood floors, but they can't do the wood floors till the AC's turned on. So he's in the situation where he's trying to finish, but he's relying on all these unreliable trades to make things happen for him, for the client, right? So there's two perspectives on this, right? So I'll start this discussion with talking about the kind of the builder side of the stressful situation, because that's the side that I'm personally on all the time. Although I get the kind of the perspective of also seeing the client side on the consulting business that I have. So I want to start with a couple of statistics. Did you know suicide rates are 4 to 5 times higher in the construction industry than in the rest of the population? And that 83% of construction workers have experienced some form of a psychiatric symptom. A survey was taken just 5 years ago, 2000, and it said that 80% of people in this industry struggle with mental health issues. So why is that? Well, we can definitely talk about how macho guys, it's the macho mentality. We don't want to admit that we're struggling with mental health issues. And the general sentiment on the job site is, well, just suck it up, buttercup, or shove that down deep and keep on working. But we all know that's not a healthy way to operate. I think it's interesting to think about how the physical risks of construction of this job are tangible, and those are visible. Like we all know there's a risk of falling off the ladder, off the roof. There's always the risk of stepping on a nail or having something fall off and hit us on the head, right? And things like that, we can identify those and we can correct those. Like, hey, dummy, put on a hard hat or wear your fall protection or pull the nails out of that 2x4 that's laying on the ground. But in contrast, the psychological side of this, those psychological stressors that contribute to the burnout, those things are often unseen and they go unaddressed. But those things do manifest themselves in other ways. So, when people are dealing with burnout and stress, they have behavioral changes, decreased productivity. Maybe there's increased tension or conflict between people on the team. Maybe there's a rise in risky behavior that they're taking part in. Maybe an increase in safety incidents because they're not paying attention. So when those kind of symptoms appear, again, these are symptoms of the underlying problem, but when those symptoms appear, oftentimes those things are treated like they're performance issues rather than a sign of a deeper mental health issue. Because that's really hard to see. We as builders, we as managers aren't qualified to make the call on that, right? And so we treat that as a performance issue, and we write them up. Not wearing fall protection, not wearing a hard hat, not picking up stuff off the ground. Getting in a fight with your coworker. So they're getting written up for the symptom. And so this is a disconnect, and this industry is often focused on just treating those symptoms instead of the root causes. And of course, that just perpetuates this whole thing, right? And the sources of these stresses that cause the burnout, the source of the stress that we're all dealing with is a really long list. We've talked about this before on the show. A builder today is not usually a craftsman. A builder is often more of a project manager, a troubleshooter, a scheduler, a financial analyst, HR department, negotiator, mediator. We're all these things, and we're often working with limited support. If it's a small company, maybe it's a one-man operation. Maybe it's a small company. There's 4 or 5 people, so there's not a lot of support. Or maybe it's a bigger company. There's just no processes, and it's just chaos all the time, right? Another big stressor is financial pressure. So how many builders out there, how many of you watching, listening, lay awake at night wondering if there's going to be enough draws this week to pay the bills? And then you're trying to start that next project so that you can rob Peter to pay Paul to keep all those balls in the air that you're trying to juggle. Or maybe you're just underbidding things on purpose so that you don't lose that next project because you need it to keep your head above water, right? And then there's all the client pressures as well. So how many of us builders get treated by our customers like we're their servant? I think sometimes when people write you a check, they treat you like they own you. So they feel like they can send you text messages late at night. They can call you 24 hours a day, and you have to respond to them. You feel like you're perpetually on call. Even when you're on vacation, you're always on call. You always have to answer that text or that call or that email. And then we top all those things off with the workforce that we have to deal with as builders, right? The plumber's truck won't start, or the painter's helper quit, or the concrete guy forgot to schedule the concrete delivery for today, whatever. Now you have all these seemingly uncontrollable issues that are piling on top of these other issues. So all of these things I'm talking about are like a direct route to exhaustion and helplessness, and that it means burnout. So now let's talk about the customer side of things, the homeowner's perspective. The emotional and psychological cost of construction is not limited to the professional side. For the homeowner, the journey is this emotional roller coaster that begins long before the first shovel hits the dirt. My friend Dan Bawden, who I had on here just a few weeks ago, he has a great visual on his website that I know we've shared many times over the years. It's called the funk chart. And that funk chart shows this emotional roller coaster that people are on from the beginning to the end. They start off up here really high and excited, then they dip down low, then they're back up, and they're back down. So customers go on this emotional journey all the way through the construction project. So everyone starts off, they're really excited. We're going to start designing this house, so all the way back to pre-construction planning, right? They're exciting. They're working with an architect, a designer to create this dream home. But then they hit this black hole of silence because the designer's gone dark while they're coming up with ideas and drawing things. And then they get excited again when the first drawings get presented. And then that's replaced by anxiety because of cost and budget, right? And that anxiety, this worry over cost and budget, that culminates in this old crappy bidding process system, which can be just this period of like total unknown where the homeowner waits for weeks and weeks only to get bids that are now like way out of their budget range, right? So that whole process is broken. And then when and if the project finally gets going, because a lot of them fall apart and never actually get built because the homeowner hits this point and they don't go anywhere. But when and if the project gets going, now they're hit with all new sources of stress, right? The selections don't work out. The refrigerator doesn't fit, like I mentioned a minute ago. They're dealing with a builder who doesn't communicate. The subs aren't showing up. Like I was saying on the builder side, well, the builder's painter helper quits. The concrete guy doesn't order the concrete. All those things now translate into homeowner stress as well, right? So these same builder issues now become bigger homeowner issues, and the builder might take it out on the homeowner, and the homeowner might take it out on the builder, and they both might take it out on the architect and the designer. And it's this on and on, this perpetual process until everyone just hates each other at the end. If you read Facebook groups and Reddit groups and things like that, you'll have no problem finding horror stories on there, right? Projects that went over budget 30, 40, 50, 100% over budget, poor workmanship, corners getting cut. And so when you start seeing things like corners getting cut, well, now you, as the homeowner, have this deep-seated fear about what mistakes are hiding behind the wall. You know, if they scrimped on this, if they mess this up, what bigger issues are they hiding? You know, that's the way their minds go, right? So if a small crack pops up, might be a completely normal thing, shifting, settlement, whatever, normal product variations, whatever. But if this small crack pops up, and now there's anxiety over, well, is that a normal crack, or is it just garbage workmanship, or is there some kind of like catastrophic structural problem going on here, right? I'm sure most builders have dealt with that. You have this homeowner that just doesn't know whether that's a big deal or not because they haven't trusted the process. They haven't had a good process to that point, so they don't know what to trust, right? So all of these personal nightmare narratives that you hear online, that you read on Facebook groups and Reddit groups and whatever, these aren't just like local isolated incidents. I propose these are a systemic problem. These are symptoms of a larger issue. And our system that we've operated in for years and years is a broken system. You know, most clients lack the technical expertise to manage a project, which is why we, as contractors, builders, consultants, is why we exist, right? But then they also lack the experience to choose the contractor, to vet people. They lack the ability, the experience to evaluate proposals and to know what's good or bad, right? And so this knowledge gap that they have, it creates this feeling of powerlessness, and that leaves them dependent on the process, which is broken, and also that process is clear and it's intimidating to them, to be honest, right? So that vulnerability, that kind of uneasiness, that knowledge gap, that is often exploited by builders who then act as salesmen, and they prioritize getting into contracts, speed, low cost, low bid. They prioritize all that over quality and process. And so then the mess and stress that comes from having bought something that they don't really know about from a salesman, even if it's something superficial, it can just trigger this cascade of emotions, and often that ends with the homeowner questioning. They're questioning the integrity of the builder. They're questioning the trustworthiness of the team that they've built. And I'm sure that I'm sure that you've heard this. I know I've heard this. Some people come out of the home building process, and unfortunately, they say, building a house is the worst decision that I ever made. And that's not something that I want to hear, and not something that you want to hear. So I think that's a good stopping point for today, actually. I think I've kind of set the stage here and given you something to ponder on. So why do situations like this keep happening in our industry? And what can we as builders, architects, consultants designers, all the people who listen to this show, in addition to homeowners, what can we do to improve this process? What can we do to prevent things like this from happening in the future? So next episode, now that I presented the problem here, next episode, we're going to talk solutions. What's a better way? What's the solution? How are we going to keep this from happening? Because again, like I said at the beginning, I think the homeowners' emotional anxiety, the builders' burnout, these are not separate issues. These are both one thing tied together, two sides of the same coin, and we're just in this feedback loop of mutual stress and just tough relationships, right? So I hate to leave you on a down note, so I'll just encourage you and say, don't worry, there is a better way. If you're in the middle of this right now, if you're a homeowner in the middle of this, if you're a builder in the middle of this, things can change. There is a better way. I know that from firsthand experience. So we'll talk about that next time on the next episode of the Your Project Shepherd podcast. Thanks for joining us.